So my name is Abby Wells. This is Jacob Chapman, Jessica Wynn, Brett Steele, and Richard Flores. And we worked with General Outdoor Advertising, which, as you can probably guess, is a billboard company based in Southern California. So they actually have a pretty long history. They were founded in 1954 in the San Gabriel Valley, which is near Los Angeles, for those of you less familiar with the Southern California area. It's completely family owned and operated. In fact, that's how we had our contact. It's Jessica's family, grandfather and uncles that run the company, and her father. And another interesting note in terms of their history is that within the last decade or so, they've actually moved all of their signs from being, or almost all of their signs from being traditional panel billboards into electronic billboards. And as you can imagine, this allows them to work with more customers at one time and therefore generate more revenues. And looking at their competition, you may recognize some of these brands. These are actually national competitors, and most of their competition comes from these national companies. More recently, CBS Outdoor has rebranded to become Outfront Media. And this is a special note for us because this is something that led to our initial question and analysis, as they've seen tremendous success with that rebranding process.
So one of the basic problems that General Outdoor Advertising is having is that as they've seen other companies begin to rebrand, they've started to overwhelm the market a little bit. Since no one really cares about what company they go to for billboards, they just want to go to a billboard company, then they've had a problem where they've noticed their market share start to decrease. So they've decided that they want to rebrand themselves and find their own niche, to be able to have the opportunity to get that extra added market share by focusing on a specific audience. And so therefore they tried to focus on a couple different factors, specifically being should they target local, county, regional, or national markets, so those types of businesses, and they decided to take those values based on specific areas and locations of each of their signs. Whether it's in a highly populated area and has a lot of foot traffic, such as in the main central areas of towns, or if it's on a lesser populated or less traveled roads, and those would be more according to the poorer sign locations. And so with this type of thing, they specifically asked us to focus on two main questions. What type of customers should they focus their advertising towards and their brand towards, as well as what is the direct price that they should focus on to help maximize their profits and increase the market share. Ideally, in the local community, they would like to either match CBS or now Outdoor Media, or more desired, actually beat the local competition in their market share value.
Perfect. Thanks, Jacob. So if we look a little bit closely at their analysis, we did analysis of their current strategy. If we look at their markets that they currently perform in, they really target both, really a series of types of firms, both local, national, and also country and regional firms. And so that's all performed right within the Inland Empire, which is southern LA area. It's really one of the largest markets that they can participate in. As far as unique value goes, really the unique value of GOA is that it's a family-owned business, and local firms really like that they can deal with another local firm. As far as their core competencies, they have really good relationships with the local city officials. With outdoor advertising, there's a lot of zoning that has to go on, and so those key relationships are very important in their business. And really the barrier to entry within this market, within their industry, is a combination of all those factors, their relationships with local firms and also with local city officials. We also looked closely at Porter's 5 forces, which we've learned in this class. Starting with substitutes, really the only substitutes that exist are larger companies. Customers may choose larger companies over GOA. Threat of new entrants, there's very few threats of new entrants. We know that billboard signs are going to be in high demand for the years to come. Supplier power, because GOA has limited resources and limited real estate, that's sometimes an issue, but really the biggest force that we found to be the most influential factor was buyer's power. And we want to, looking at Porter's 5 forces, it really directed us to what we wanted to analyze for the company, and that is specifically how can we lower buyer power with the performance. And by doing so, we're able to look more closely at it. Really, the reason why buyer power is so influential is because a customer can choose a sign in the best location for the best price. It really doesn't matter what the company is. So if we focus on the branding and the pricing strategy, we figured that's going to best help GOA.
And like you said, the other factors, we can't really do anything about them as GOA, so we wanted to focus on buyer power. And so what we did a regression analysis initially to figure out what are the best, we broke it down into the 4 categories, what are the best categories to focus on? And we realized that nothing was statistically significant. So we wanted to take a little bit deeper look at the data. And so we plotted an inverse demand function for each sign on each different kind of customer. And what we were able to do is to figure out the revenue maximizing the quantity and price from this inverse demand function, and so that we could price each sign in each group separately based on their category.
And so these were our results. As you can see, we have our good sign locations, and this is a model for all of their signs across the company, but we took 3 performance groups. So we have the good signs, the fair signs, and the poor signs. And as you can see, like our hypothesis stated, from our manager expected that the locals would be able to bring in the most revenue, and we actually saw that across all 3 signs, they were in the top 2. And they were in the top 1 for the good sign and the poor sign. And so you can see that we have these different pricing strategies, as well as their quantity that they're going to be able to achieve with these different prices, and that's the revenue that they're expected to bring in. And so here we have our 3 different prices for our 3 different sign categories. So for your good sign, they should be focusing in on those local and the national customers. When they're rebranding themselves, we recommend that they rebrand to those customers specifically for these signs. So they're marketing out, reaching out to these types of customers so that they can maximize that revenue across the 3 signs. And so we recommend that there are some limitations in our analysis. We only had 78 observations, which is fairly small. However, we recommend that in the future they continue to keep track of this and use and build off of these demand analyses so that they can further implement their pricing strategy and really know how they can have more of a pull strategy from their clients. And then we also recognize that there is price discrimination because it just kind of depends on what the customers are willing to pay. But also, once again, with this demand analysis, we can determine that pricing, and we can help set those fixed prices instead of just having these negotiations that often lead to a decrease in prices. And also going forward into the future, looking at it seasonally, looking at their demand analysis on a seasonal basis, because that does affect the data in some ways. So those are our recommendations. Are there any questions? Yes.
So when the CUS company, when they rebranded and redid things, did they also change their prices as well, or how did that affect? You said it grew a lot, didn't it?
Yeah, it grew a lot. They had more of a pull strategy. It's just what we were able to gather. We weren't able to gather as much data as we would have liked from that company, but we recommend that they continue looking into that in the future. But we did see that they were able to capture more of the market, and there were more people because they were spinning off, and so they were able to target in on just that one part of the company. So the company had to spin off, essentially, so it was more profitable in that sense.
So can you just clarify for me how the model works for the business? Do they own the billboards, or do they rent them and then re-rent them? So my question is, if they own the billboards, you set optimal price and quantity. Are you suggesting that they just have billboards that leave empty, or they like hit the quantity and then decrease the price?
So quantity is number of months rented out
Oh, okay.
to the customer. I should have explained that a little bit better.
Okay.
So yeah, depending on the price, obviously if you rent more months, you're going to get a lower price. So that we found the optimal combination of the 2. The price they should charge and how many months they should try to get each customer.
So those prices were per month to rent, okay, to use.
And because it's a digital sign, it changes every 9 seconds.
Oh, so they can have multiple
They have,
people.
I think it's up to 9 customers on each sign.
Okay.
And there's 2 faces to a sign too, so they can have up to 18 customers on one sign.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead.